Status effects and debuffs can absolutely cripple your opponent and can be the difference between life and death in any tabletop encounter. A defenseless target will be hit by nearly anything, and an impaired one will be weaker in everything. Superman might be the Man of Steel, but with the correct affliction, even he will bleed. First and foremost, if you're looking to reduce specific stats, there's another power that also functions as a debuff, called Weaken. I will not be going over that power in this video, but a similar effect can be achieved with an affliction. How affliction powers work. Afflictions may be physical, relying on a fortitude check, or mental, relying on a will check. There are 3 degrees or tiers of affliction that you may inflict on a target. Each degree is stronger than the previous, and higher tier afflictions are often of a higher potency, or even a combination of other weaker afflictions. I will go over these conditions at the end, one at a time. Conditions, for the record, are essentially status effects that cause a debuff on a target. Affliction powers take a standard action to perform and start off at close range, instant duration, and cost 1 point per rank, before modifiers are applied. You perform an attack check, and if it hits, impose 1 or more conditions or status effects on the target. When a power is created, your descriptors, targeted defense, and inflicted conditions are immediately chosen, and changing requires DM permission. Higher degree conditions always replace lower degree conditions, and conditions do not stack between degrees, so choose wisely. This means, for example, that you could not combine an impaired and disabled condition, which respectively inflict -2 and -5 to all checks, for a grand total of -7. It's one or the other, whichever is worse for the target. If your affliction attack successfully hits, the opposing target must roll their respective defense against your power's DC. Each rank of affliction directly adds to the base DC of 10. So if you have a rank 5 mind-controlling will affliction, the DC is the base 10, plus the rank of 5, for a total DC of 15. The target must roll 1d20 and add their will modifier, since this is a mental effect. As with many other systems in Mutants and Masterminds, success and failure is measured in degrees. If the defender meets the DC, they succeed and suffer no conditions from the affliction power. If they roll up to 5 under, that's a first degree. Up to 10 under, that's the second degree. Rolling up to 15 under or below, take the highest degree, which probably means you're knocked out. First and second degree afflictions can still be overcome even if you fail that initial resistance check. At the end of your turn, each turn, make another resistance check, and if you succeed, you shrug off first and second degree afflictions. Third degree afflictions require a minute of rest or a quick heal, DC 10 plus power rank. Extras. Affliction has a set of unique modifiers to make your afflictions more deadly. Alternate resistance costs 0 points per rank. It lets you change your initial attack's resistance check from fortitude or will into a dodge check. The end of turn resistance check the target gets will still require a fortitude or will save to overcome. I see this as more of a flavorful extra for attacks that always affect the target if they hit. Concentration costs 1 point per rank. Simply put, if your target fails their initial resistance check, instead of making more attack rolls to worsen the affliction degree, you can spend a standard action to auto-hit them again. Cumulative is a nutty extra that costs 1 point per rank. This makes the degrees of your affliction stack. Note that I say the degree of your affliction, not the afflictions themselves. If your target is at 1 degree, for example, suffering from impaired, and then you hit them again, and they fail by 1 degree, instead of staying at 1 degree, they're added together, the target is now at 2 degrees of failure, suffering from the disabled affliction. This can also work to push a 2nd degree affliction up to a 3rd degree. Cumulative is very powerful. Extra condition costs, you guessed it, 1 point per rank. Each degree of your affliction will now have a 2nd condition applied to it. Now, instead of just being impaired at 1st degree, the target can be impaired and dazed. 2nd degree can be defenseless and disabled. I suppose your 3rd degree could also be some combination of incapacitated and paralyzed, but that makes little difference. The last unique extra is progressive. This one is so good it actually costs 2 points per rank. Spooky, I know. Basically, each time the target fails their end of turn resistance check, the affliction worsens by 1 degree. If they succeed, they still overcome it, so don't expect an instant win. Flaws. Starting off unique flaws, instant recovery costs -1 point per rank. At the end of the turn in which the effect expires, they instantly recover. No check needed. If it's an instant duration, it's the end of that turn. If it's sustained duration, it ends at the end of the turn when the power stops being sustained. Limited degree costs either -1 point per rank or -2 points per rank. At -1, your affliction no longer inflicts 1 degree worth of effects. At -2, your affliction only inflicts 1 degree at all. With no additional information from the book, I assume you the player get to choose which degree of the 3 you throw away and which ones you keep. Of course, you can always apply generic modifiers like area, increased range, homing, or worse yet, insidious and subtle too. I'll bring up a few examples like this at the very end. What does each condition do? Each condition is explained really well in the book, so for most of them, I'll just read page 17 and beyond. Don't expect much editing here while I blitz through them. If you're here just to learn about how afflictions work mechanically, you may step off here, as the rest of the video will be noting these conditions. There are two kinds of condition: basic conditions and combined conditions. Basic conditions impose a single debuff on the target, and combined conditions are groupings of basic conditions. Some combined conditions have their own additional effects. Furthermore, separate parts of a combined condition can be treated individually. A stunned character is dazed and hindered. If you somehow cure the dazing, they are no longer stunned, but merely hindered. Compelled. The character is limited to free actions and a single standard action per turn, with both types of actions being chosen by another controlling character. As usual, the standard action can be traded for a move action. Controlled supersedes compelled. Controlled. A controlled character has no free will. The character's actions each turn are dictated by another controlling character. Dazed. A dazed character is limited to free actions and a single standard action per turn, although the character may use that action to perform a move, as usual. Stunned supersedes dazed. Basically, you lose your free 1 per turn move action. Debilitated. The character has one or more abilities lowered below -5. This comes with its own host of effects for each ability score, which can be found on page 57. I will put those on screen now. Defenseless. A defenseless character has active defense bonuses of 0. Their parry and dodge bonuses should be treated as if they were 0. Attackers can make attacks on defenseless opponents as routine checks. Essentially, you take 10, or act as if you just rolled a 10 on the dice instead of rolling. If the attacker chooses to forego the routine check and make a normal attack check, any hit is treated as a critical hit. Defenseless characters are sometimes also prone, providing opponents with an additional bonus to attack checks. Disabled. A disabled character is at a -5 circumstance penalty on all checks. If the penalty applies to specific checks, they are added to the name of the condition, such as attack disabled, fighting disabled, perception disabled, and so forth. Debilitated, if it applies to the same traits, supersedes disabled. Fatigued. Fatigued characters are hindered. Characters recover from a fatigued condition after an hour of rest. Hindered. Hindered characters move at half normal speed, -1 speed rank. Immobile supersedes hindered. Immobile. Immobile characters have no movement speed and cannot move from the spot they occupy. Impaired. An impaired character is at a -2 circumstance penalty on all checks. If the impairment applies to specific checks, they are added to the name of the condition, such as attack impaired, fighting impaired, perception impaired, and so forth. If it applies to the same traits, disabled supersedes impaired. Normal. The character is unharmed and unaffected by other conditions. They're acting normally. Stunned. Stunned characters cannot take any actions, including free actions. Transformed. Transformed characters have some or all of their traits altered by an outside agency. This may range from a change in the character's appearance to a complete change in trait ranks, and even the removal of some traits and the addition of others. The primary limit on the transformed condition is that the character's power point total cannot increase, although it can effectively decrease for the duration of the transformation, such as when a powerful superhero is turned into an otherwise powerless frog or a mouse, obviously based on considerably few power points. Unaware. The character is completely unaware of his surroundings, unable to make interaction or perception checks, or perform any actions based on them. If the condition applies to a specific sense or senses, they are added to the name of the condition, such as visually unaware, or tactilely unaware, or numb. Subjects have full concealment from all a character's unaware senses. Vulnerable. Vulnerable characters are limited in their ability to defend themselves, having their active defenses, that is, their parry and dodge bonuses. Round up the final value. Defenseless supersedes vulnerable. Weakened. The character has temporarily lost power points in a trait. See the weaken effect in the powers chapter for more. Debilitated supersedes weakened. Those are your basic conditions. Now for combined conditions. Asleep. This character is defenseless, stunned, and unaware. That means no parry and no dodge bonus, no actions at all, and no perception of anything. They can be woken up with a successful perception check with 3 degrees of success, or extreme sudden movement. Yes, being hit or attacked counts. Blind. This character cannot see. They are hindered, visually unaware, and vulnerable, and also impaired or disabled for vision. Bound. A bound character is defenseless, immobile, and impaired. no active defenses, no moving of your own volition, and you have a -2 penalty to everything. Deaf. This character cannot hear, giving everything total auditory concealment from him. Dying. Well, first off, you're dying, so that's pretty pressing. On top of that, you're incapacitated, which is another combined condition that is a stronger version of a sleep. You're defenseless, stunned, and unaware. When you become dying, make a DC 15 Fortitude check. If it succeeds with 2 degrees of success, you stabilize and remove this condition. If this is a result of damage, I assume you stay incapacitated until you've naturally recovered the incapacitation that you would gain from that injury. If you fail, you're still dying. You make this check again each round, and if you ever gain 3 total degrees of failure, you die. The good news is that a DC 15 treatment check will stabilize you. Entranced. This character is stunned, stuck paying attention to the source of its entrancement, but they can be broken out of the trance by being interacted with. DC 10 plus effect rank. The book doesn't explain this any further. I assume you either roll a flat D20, or perhaps more likely, roll a perception check. Use your judgment here. Exhausted. An upgrade of fatigued. This character is impaired and hindered. An hour of rest in, and I quote, comfortable surroundings removes this condition. Incapacitated. As I said previously, defenseless, stunned, unaware, and likely also prone, as an unconscious person does not usually stay standing. Paralyzed. A paralyzed character is defenseless, immobile, and physically stunned. Though they are physically locked in place, they can still take mental actions with no physical movement. Prone. Prone characters are lying prone, flat on the ground. A prone character has a -5 hit penalty on close attack checks they make, and opponents attacking them receive a +5 bonus on close attack checks. Ranged opponents attacking a prone character get a -5 hit penalty to their attack checks, as they're effectively in cover. It seems small, but this bonus could come in handy. 5 levels worth of penalty or bonus is make or break in some fights. Restrained. Restrained characters are hindered and vulnerable. If locked to an immobile object, the character is immobile instead of hindered. If locked to another character, they can be moved by that character. Staggered. A staggered character is merely dazed and hindered. You lose your free move action, and if you still choose to move, it's at half speed. Surprised. A surprised character is stunned and vulnerable. Surprise often happens because of a sneak attack, so you will lose a turn's worth of actions, and you have half your active defenses for that surprise round. Back to the fun part. I'm going to show you some fun and evil powers you can make. A potentially devastating and easy-to-assemble affliction combines cumulative and progressive, since not only will the effect worsen if the target fails, but even if they're just barely hanging on, you can slam them again next turn. Bonus points if you add concentration. At base, that's a proportionately costly 5 points per rank power. At this point, you're banking on that 3rd degree of failure for a KO, but aiding that with impaired and disabled can go a long way. For something a little bit more sick and twisted for your Game Master, try my Brainjack combo. First, take a mental affliction. Entranced or dazed, then compelled, then controlled. Now slap on Insidious, flat 1 point, making it harder, but not impossible for the target to realize they're not in control of themselves. Great. Now put in Subtle 2, that's 2 points. Now your power doesn't even give off a cue it's happening. You could stop there, but let's give it a bit of flavor. Increased ranged perception, plus 2 points per rank. So get this. A mind-controlling power that is difficult to detect you're even under, that is impossible to detect where it's coming from without a sixth sense, and that can be activated if you so much as sense the target. Sight, sound, smell, feel, hearing, or additional senses. All for the cost of 3 points per rank plus 3 points flat. And that's before adding additional modifiers to make it more potent. And let's not forget that you can combine powers together. My brother had an insane combo for a Naruto-themed game we did. A potentially deadly and devastating technique that tears the body up, doing damage, weakening stamina, and afflicting the target. Even if the target survived the damage, they had to worry about their stamina being drained, potentially lethally, and if they saved that, they also had an affliction to worry about. That power was expensive, but be warned, a wary Game Master may see this absolutely busted combo and either ask you to tone them down for balance, or even scarier, rise to the challenge with just as powerful techniques. Be careful not to raise your own Game Master's power level, so to speak. Or do. I always found the challenge my players give me to be fun to work around. That should be everything you need to know about afflictions, so thank you for watching and listening. And remember, The real mutants and masterminds are the players that remember to use their powers and maneuvers creatively and cleverly.